G'day everybody, Duckville here. Welcome to a PVZ actually. It's first one I've done for a little while, I believe. Which is going to be on Korhal Sky Island or Korhal Floating Island, depending on where you are from. This should be a really interesting game. It's between two GM players from the EU region. We're going to be seeing how they roll here as our Protoss, our red Protoss up the top left-hand side here is from the extremely newly formed, as in I'm talking like yesterday or something like that. It's the 19th of August today. I believe the team was formed yesterday. It is Planet Key Dynamics is the name of the team. And the young player here, who is, I believe, very young, I think he's only like 17 or something, it is Gung Fu Banda, I should say. Bit of a play on the words of that fun little, what was it, Pixar movie, or was it a Disney? I don't know, I didn't watch it. But anyway, he's a young Protoss player from Germany, I believe. He did decently at a couple of the local tournaments over there, and was in Team Wasp, which has recently been dissolved, but a few of the players from Wasp have now moved over into Planet Key, a new sort of, as we said, a very new German team. And we'll see how they go. They do have a couple of really good players. Meanwhile, Gung Fu Banda's opponent down at the bottom right-hand side is a player who has certainly been around the scene and is from Slovenia. It is our Blue Zone player, Starbuck, from Team MIA. So Starbuck, you may know, if you've been very diligently watching WCS EU this season, Season 2 in 2013, you would have seen Starbuck in the round of 32 and actually played a very interesting game against Genius. If you want to, and I mean interesting, right? When I say interesting, you guys know me, you know I love my wacky games, but when I say interesting, I certainly mean interesting. Jump onto Liquipedia and look for the WCS EU round of 32 VODs for Starbuck and have a look at the games against Genius. It was a really, really wacky kind of game. But anyway, Starbuck is a player who really likes macro games, but does do all sorts of things when playing on ladder, from what I understand. So we'll see what Starbuck is going to get up to here today. Of course, let's talk about this map. It is a very, very intriguing map, I suppose you could say, in these particular positions, the 5 and the 11 position. There are sort of two entries that you have to block off, as we can see here. Actually, we'll zoom out and so you can see. There you go. So there are two entries that you have to block out, this one here and also this one here. We can see that Gung Fu has gone for the very standard sort of way to wall it off, which is to make sure that you just fully wall off one of the entrances and then use the other as your entry and exit point. Now, for our Zerg players, we can see Starbuck has seen what is going on here and knows that this is going to be the path that the Protoss player will take to get in and out of the base. So that is always something you can keep to your advantage, because it does mean you can expand based on how you think the Protoss is going to play, and it can give you an advantage every now and then. So Starbuck, another thing about this map is that Zergling rushing is extremely common, just because there are two doors to block off. As we can see, Gung Fu has gone, he's just gone straight up to one gas. He's not going to be going too hard on that. The Warpgate Tech is researching. We just got one single Zealot out on the map. Probe is still out there, just getting ready to place down a proxy as needed. But this is a map where you can have very, very simple 2-base games, or you can go to very long distance, sort of 4 to 5 base games, and it can be a real macroeconomic fare on this map. So it's a really interesting map, but of course, you know, you factor into it the other part of this map, that you can spawn here. You can spawn at the 1 and the 7 or 8 position down here as well, and that can totally change the dynamic of the map. So it is a really cool map. This has actually been one of my favorite maps for a very long time. So I really have liked the way they've decided to work this map. So anyway, Starbuck, as you can see, just forcing away that mothership core for the time being. Roach Warren is on the way. Third base is not being established just as of yet. Wanting to make sure that he is very comfortable against the gateway opening of the Protoss player. But Zergling speed has been finished up. We can see extra 2 gases now coming down at the natural base, so we may see just a few roaches coming out to defend against any early sort of pressure. Now, one thing that we do see here from Gung Fu is the fact that he has come across and has thrown down a couple of proxy pylons. Zealots coming about, they will shred up quite a lot of these Lings. Keep in mind, Lings do reasonably well when there are a lot of them, but when there are 4 Zealots and the Mothership Core is up in the sky laying down some firepower, then that is not the best of fights for Link. So Starbuck wisely backs off, forces his opponent to back off in the meantime as well. So the 4 gates that came out from Gung Fu are not really going to get too much done. We can see just these 4 that were set up, not really going to go too much further than that. Looks as if Starbuck is going to continue to scout about to try and find any of those proxy pylons, and does find one. We've got the main one that's just over here. Talking about expansion patterns on this map based on how the Protoss expands, we can see that Starbuck has, I think this is a wise decision to push down to the bottom left-hand side. You do need to, sometimes you need to break down the rocks that you can put down here. The rock tower can be attacked to drop down a little patch of rocks that can block off the pathway there. We can see that Gung Fu is going in the same direction. Gonna knock down the cooling tower. That'll drop down some debris over here, which will block off this entrance and make it very hard for the Zerg to try and get inside. It looks like some Lings are gonna make their way across. They may have a quick look at what's going on, but the rock tower is already down, and the debris is already blocking the way. So Gung Fu is going to be pushing out towards the right-hand side. So this means that our Zerg player has basically an opposing base. It's in a very, very long distance to get to. Of course, when you factor in Warp Gate tech, sometimes various Protoss attacks cannot, they don't even care about the distance to a base. But in this case, where we're going to move into the mid-game and the macro game of this particular matchup, we're going to see that Starbuck is going to have time to get +1 to weapons on the way. Hydralisk Den is also coming out. We'll probably see maybe an infestation pit going down. I would say maybe a little bit quicker, perhaps. Some players like to get the infestation pit down really quick to get their hive out nice and quick so that they can have their Vipers out, which can be a really, really threatening presence out on the map. You can use it very defensively to block out Protoss attacks with Blinding Cloud and abductions and those kinds of things, but you can also use them offensively to pull apart the Colossi from the main forces. But for the moment, Gung Fu is going to go straight up to double Stargate. The Zerg player has seen that this is going on, so we'll be aware that there is going to be a little bit of a threat up in the sky, and wisely, Starbuck is going to back off with the Roaches and Lings that were looking to push across, but so far there is not too much to do over on the opposite side of the map. So Roach Speed will finish up. I would presume that our Zerg player there is the Hive already coming in. There is the Infestation Pit, of course. We can see a couple of static defenses going down inside the natural base. We'll probably see a 4th. Yeah, there's the 4th very, very quickly. Just going to pop that up. I would say you could possibly even look to take a 5th, maybe. I don't know. The thing about double Stargate is that you're not really going to see a big sort of attack for quite a while, especially when the Protoss has only just really started getting this 3rd base in operation. So, you know, you could certainly look to take maybe even a hidden 5th base, something like that. I don't know, but I would suspect that with this scouting, Phoenix, we can see that Gung Fu is gonna... Is he scouted out that the Hive is on the way? No, he's actually gonna miss the Hive is coming through. Oh, actually, there you go. Alright, so he does catch it. It's over halfway done, so the Hive is not too far away. But one thing that Starbuck definitely does need right now is a lot of gas. We're gonna need to see lots of gas coming out. It does take quite a lot to build up those Vipers, and also maybe perhaps we may see a little bit of a later transition into Swarm Host. You can go into Swarm Host on this map. The big thing about this map is there are a lot of very small sort of choke points, like relatively speaking compared to some other maps. There are very small choke points around about the place, so it is something that you can take advantage of with Swarm Host. But we can see that there is a huge amount of scouting here. Wonderful map vision from our Zerg player. Starbuck has Zerglings all over the map. He's just wanting to keep an eye on everything that is happening. As we can see, he knows that there will be a big push coming down the center of the map. So those Vipers are now coming out. 3 of them are on the way. The Hydralisk Groove Spines is also just being picked up right now. And the Hydras, along with the Roaches that are also out, should be enough, I believe, to deflect this attack. I guess we'll see in a moment, because we can see now that Gung Fu is making his way across back at home. He does still have only a few gates, but the Colossus tech is now being started up as well. So those guys are going to be added into the mix. You do really need them to be dealing with Hydras as well. The Hydras currently sitting here on 0-1 on their upgrades. Vipers just feeding off the hatchery to get their energy up and running. It's something weird that I've really noticed up in high-level play with the Zerg players. They've kind of neglected throwing down what I like to call the buffet buildings. Things like, you know, just a random sort of hatchery or an Evo chamber or something like that, so that the Vipers can feed on them. A lot of players have just been saying, you know, screw it, I'm just going to just feed on extractors or hives or you know, normal hatcheries and these kinds of things. I think it's really weird. I'm not actually sure why that is happening, but I don't know, perhaps it's just a stylistic kind of thing. Starbuck has expanded to the 5th base down at the bottom left-hand side of the map, is looking to maybe push across and take all of the bases on the left side, while for the moment Gung Fu Banda has decided to get a lot of gateways up. We can see the Templar Archives is on the way, Twilight Council as well, and a rather large attack coming through on the 3rd base of the Protoss player. Starbuck is looking to get some damage done here. I don't think it's really going to happen. There are a couple of Colossi here, only 2 real ones, but 2 hallucinated ones, and that's a bit threatening to the Zerg player. And, you know, I think that hallucination is going to be a really big part of this particular matchup as we sort of move forward and evolve this matchup. A lot of players, I think, will be using things like hallucinated Colossi to try and draw the fire of Vipers and their Abduct. You know, if you queue up an Abduct and then again you take a hallucinated Colossus, that's a huge waste of energy there, and it can be a really big factor in a battle. So I don't know, perhaps we'll see people looking to move into that kind of thing here. But what we do see from Starbuck is a switch over into Swarm Host. It looks like we've got a Spire on the way. Swarm Host getting their Enduring Locust. We've got Pneumatized Carapace, a couple more upgrades also on the way, +3 to weapons for these Hydras, and Roaches are all on the way. As Starbuck, wow. Okay, I was going to say, you're just going to leave that base there, Starbuck, but no, he's going to push across to try and see what's going on. A feedback on one of the Vipers does take it out very, very quickly. The Templar are looking to get those feedbacks down. It looks like they won't get there in time. Blinding Cloud, we can also see that the Colossi are getting abducted right now as well, but only one of them. And it does get taken out, but a lot of the Hydras and the Roaches are also taken out as well. The 4th base of Gung Fu Banda is also on the way, but a lot of harassment coming out of our Protoss play here. These Zealots with their 101, a little bit slow on the upgrades, but we are moving towards +2 on their attack and charge. Are going to get some damage done here. It looks like they're trying to target down one of the hatcheries, and they're not going to get too much as the Roaches and Hydras do come back across the map. So Gung Fu is sitting pretty comfortably right now. This guy is looking really, really solid. 187 supply. He's got a couple of upgrades out. +1 to air upgrades are also done as well. He's going to force his way inside the 4th base. Should be able to take this one out, no questions asked. And he takes that one, backs out and says, thank you for that one. I am also going to take the 5th base out as well. That hatchery falling down to just a few of those Zealots. So Gung Fu has been able to get some really good harassment down. I am hoping that he saw that Swarm Host, because seeing the Swarm Host is a really big thing when it comes to this particular matchup, and when you do move into mid to late, when a lot of Zerg players do like to get that the static defense plus the Swarm Host out to try and really set up for a totally long distance game. But if you can get out a few, you know, you can either go for Void Rays or the Colossi. Most people will go for both, I suppose. But one thing you do need to keep an eye on is getting down multiple Robo Bays. I think that is a huge, huge factor in dealing with Swarm Hosts. You need to be able to crank out the Colossi as quickly as you can. Not only do they get abducted and, you know, taken out by Hydras and things like that, but if you have a lot of Swarm Hosts that you need to deal with, Colossi are just brilliant at dealing with the Locust down on the ground. So I think that is a really big part of this particular style that we're going to be seeing coming out of Starbuck here. A couple of Locusts will drop down to take care of the Zealots that have pushed their way across. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the map, Roaches, trying to deal with the destructible debris that will go down eventually. And I'm sure Gung Fu knows about this. Surely, okay, he might not have caught it just yet, but he certainly will soon. But there could be, you know, just a couple of Void Rays that will move their way across the map to try and deal with those Roaches. There's no need to send the entire force. You can just leave a couple of them back at home to defend. But the Swarm Host count still is continuing to grow. We've got a total of 7 out at the moment. A few Infestors are also coming out. I do like seeing that addition there as well. And going through, dealing with those Roaches eventually. A little bit of starter step micro from Starbuck, wanting to keep the Roaches alive as long as possible. Does lose 1 in the end, but 6 are still alive to keep the pressure on this front door. Trying to quickly warp in a couple of cannons here. I don't think those are going to warp in time. But Gung Fu is going to be pushing across the opposite side of the map. The Swarm Host providing a little bit of a barrier to that for the time being. But I mean, these Void Rays and the Colossi, and not to mention the Archons in the front, are going to be dealing with these the Swarm Host and the Locust there very, very quickly. But one thing which we do see in this game, which has been quite interesting, is the fact that neither player has really gone too hard on their upgrades. But that is a wonderful storm there. Hydra's coming in from the side. Fungal Growth down on just about everything here. But Gung Fu is throwing down storms left, right, and center. Has been obliterating every single Zerg unit that is here. The Swarm Hosts are forced to back off. Infestors that are popping out may need to throw down a Fungal Growth or two, but this base is going down yet again. The economy of our Zerg player Starbuck has been knocked down a peg yet again. So our Zerg player has been dealing with a lot of pressure here, facing up against random zealots that are attacking across the map. We can see now that some Hydra's going to deflect this Warp Prism. Very nicely done by Starbuck to have some outlying Hydras there ready to deal with that threat. DT is going to warp in back at home for Starbuck here to try and deal for Gung Fu, to deal with the Roaches that are here. Finally, they do get taken out. We can also see that plus three to weapons is just about to finish up. Blink is also on the way for Gung Fu. We're going to have, so basically, your very standard sort of mixture of units. Colossus, Templar, and Void Rays coming out from our Protoss player from Germany, Gung Fu Band, part of Team Planet Key Dynamics. Meanwhile, for MIA Starbuck across on the opposite side, he's really struggling with the income at this point here. His bank has dropped down to a very low number. Meanwhile, for Gung Fu, he's got a massive amount of minerals banked up along with some gas as well. So he's going to be sitting very, very comfortably right now. As Starbuck in this position, I would possibly be thinking about switching into the full Swarm Host static defense style, but the problem is that there are just these double pathways that lead across. We've got over on the left and then also on the right. You can have your opponent coming in from multiple angles, not to mention even just the very simple threat of a Warp Prism flying in here, setting up shop and laying down some DTs and Zealots inside your natural base, which can cause you a lot of trouble. So it is it's a very tough question here for our Zerg player as to how to deal with this. Speaking of dealing with things, Zealots coming across the map. Looks like some Swarm Hosts sending across their Locust towards the fourth base of Gung Fu. Templar at the front. Need to get them out of there. This is what the Swarm Hosts are wonderful at dealing with, is any Templar that are in the front looking to throw down a really good Storm or a feedback or something like that. But it looks like Starbuck has decided to push up Swarm Host. We've got some, nicely done with the Fungal Growth. Throws it down, but of course, you know, Protoss units at this point have so much health, so much tankiness that it's not too much of a worry for them. We can see now that the lines are drawn. We've basically got our Protoss player just sort of sitting across this kind of line here, where he's going to just sit back, he's going to try and wait for the Zerg to approach. The abductions come in, Fungal Growth will go down, trying to get some really good Fungal Growth there. It looks as if Starbuck is, however, going to be forced back. The Protoss has decided it is time. We are moving in, my friend. Throws down a Storm all over the place. A beautiful arc of storms coming across every single Hydra, and they get torn apart by the Colossi at the back. They do an immense amount of damage against those Void Rays that are there as well. But down on the opposite corner of the map, drones coming out, actually blocking the way for some of these Zealots to be able to get in and do some damage. But the Colossi, the big important part of this battle here, are still alive. Gung Fu gonna blink across, take down the Swarm Hosts as best as possible. Wants to get them out of danger before they can, before they all die, but they all fall down. The Blink Stalkers, the Colossi coming across from the back, and I think that Starbuck is in an immense amount of trouble right now. His opponent has got some excellent upgrades starting to come out. 203 on the ground, and then of course up in the air, the other Protoss forces there have 101. Currently researching some gravitic drive for the Warp Prism. But now we can see that Starbuck has changed gears, moving into a little bit more of an Infestor Hydra style. Just moving across the bottom towards the top left-hand side of the map. Going to take out some of the Zealots here, but now the main Protoss forces will approach from the right-hand side, coming into flank. Will they be able to deal with all of these Hydras here? There are certainly a lot of Hydras, but 4 Colossi with +3 on their weapons are going to be tearing apart every single Hydra there. Forced to retreat, and Starbuck is in quite a lot of trouble right now. His main is mined out, his natural is gone, the third base is also pretty much dead. Fourth is of course looking wonderful, but that's because his base has not been up for too long at all, relatively speaking, compared to some of the others. So things are looking very, very good right now for Gung Fu Panda. Going to warp in some more Templar. I think we're basically just going to see him switch into just sort of like a mass sort of Templar and Archon based style. Continuing on with some harassment, though, we can see him sending out a couple of Zealots. Some DTs are going to make their way across as well. One thing which he has slowly been able to deal with are the creep trimmers. The creep of Starbuck has not been phenomenal, but he's been doing a really good job, and that's one thing which I think that Gung Fu has not really had the time to deal with is dealing with some of these creep tumors that are slowly spreading their way across the map. But the Zealots have now made their way in towards the 4th base. They should be, he's going to try and target down the hatchery here, I think. He's not going to take it down, but over on the top left-hand side of the map, Abductions coming across, nicely done by Starbuck, but the Colossi staying alive like the Bee Gees, and they do take out a lot of the ground forces there, and Starbuck is in a huge amount of trouble right now. GG from Starbuck from MIA. So, with a good game there from Gung Fu Bandit, doing a wonderful job with controlling the tempo of the game, keeping his units together, making sure he moves into that kind of death ball mixture of the Void Rays, the Colossi, the Templar, and even a few Archons every now and then, while still continuing to harass. As we can see, DTs and Zealots made their presence felt across the entirety of this game. Really nicely done by our young Protoss player from Team PK, and I hope you enjoyed the match. I'll catch you all next time. +1 to weapons, armor, charge is just about to finish, all these lovely things all about to come out here from Bales, and Jon Snow is in a world of pain right now. Some lings are going to pop out, the sentry's in a little bit of trouble, jumps them up into the Wolf Prison, but drops them back